Welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. And today is Friday, November the 17th, 2023. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And press 1, and that puts you into queue. And I see there are a couple of hands up, so we'll wait for Michael to get on. He's dialing in. And we welcome you to the show. We hope that you're planning an awesome weekend. We have Aria all day today. She didn't have school. And they've had several things going through their household, so hold them in the space. There's Aria had it Friday, and Gabby had it on Sunday, and Ryan's got it today. So some kind of bug going around. And she's doing better, but she didn't have school today anyway. And I'm still waiting to see if Michael comes in. And there he is. Welcome, Michael. We have a couple hands already up.
Yes, here he is. Thank you, dear heart. Awesome day in Bristol, Virginia. We're probably at about 70-some degrees. We got some nice sunshine and ready to rock and roll. Excited to have this conversation today. Let's take our first hand, sweetie.
Okay. I think that Susan's is still up from Dr. Tim, but I'll start with her because she was on first.
Okay.
Hello, Miss Susan.
Hi. I finished with Dr. Tim, and there are a couple of other people, so I'll be listening, but go ahead with the other guys.
All right. Blessings.
Thanks.
The first one is 760. I believe this is Ann. You're on the air.
Hey, yeah, it is.
My goodness, we haven't heard your voice in a while. Welcome. How are you?
I know. Thank you. I'm doing well. I just wanted to thank Susan for her time with Dr. Tim. I came in late, but I came in right on cue because Dr. Tim was saying the word judgment, and then from there it was like, what Susan was going through and asking helped me to get through my wake-up sheet that I'd been working on. Well, I didn't get through it yet, but I was at a standstill on 1E, where you release and surrender to love, the things that you've written before. And so and I was going to ask you this. I think I kind of already know the answer, but I'm on one of the semi-new ones, but it's where I want, you've gotten done with the story, the thought, and the punishment, and now, it's in the box. I release and surrender myself. I didn't have an issue with that. I released and surrendered my emotions of hatred and anger. I released and surrendered my stepfather. And then I released and surrendered my story. But when I got to my thought, I couldn't do it. I just was bawling. I said, I can't do it. And I go, I know I need to do it, and blah, blah, blah. And then listening, to the whole thing, because Dr. Tim's going through the Course in Miracles again. And then with Susan's stuff, so thanks again, Susan. I realized my conscious logical mind was saying I had to do this in order. So if I couldn't release my stepfather with, my thoughts about that stirred up the anger and hurt, I should go on down to I choose to honor truth. Number 2A, and just keep going. And I think I've heard Jeanie say that before.
Perfect.
Hey, if it's not working to do it in order, then go further and get quiet. And so that's kind of like what I was picking up with Dr. Tim and Susan.
Well, you've heard Jeanie before talk about what she calls backing into a worksheet. And it might start, if you put the worksheet in front of you, step 3 is what you've got in your mind. That's where you put in step 3, for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge you and congratulate you on something you just did that is monumental.
That is.
Well, if you go back and listen to your words, you were clear and crisp and 100% responsible for what was moving, for what was coming up for you.
Yes. Yes,
Instead
that is
of
cute. Thank you.
The thing that upset me, the thing that hurt me. So that's a mega breakthrough. Because most everybody they're stuck with their belief that out there is what caused this, rather than that's what stirred it up. And you know, one of the things we've talked about over and over in the show is that the human mind is an evidential device, and that means that it can only give you the evidence that you give it permission to give you. And your words are what give it permission. So if somebody says, yeah, that, and when that really upset me, then I'm giving my mind permission to generate evidence that proves that out there is the cause of my upset, as opposed to taking responsibility. Oh, that stirred up this upset inside. I mean, that's just, you just change the whole way from the average person's mind, which is all about projection, to one of responsibility. That's a monumental step. So you've really been doing your work, haven't you?
Well, and more recently, I used to think it was the old pattern of, okay, what did I resonate? I resonated the stuff that I was in and the blame thing, and so then you resonate more of it, right, with relationships. Well, now I'm in a relationship that I'm realizing, oh, I have been changing, and a lot of it's due to, doing previous work, and then I was in this lull, but more recently listening a lot, especially this year, to Dr. Tim and just, every group of us that was calling in, and I've resonated love out, and now I have this new relationship that I've been in for 2.5 months, and then God said, well, there's still some more work to do. And it's like, really?
Here's your opportunity to learn forgiveness. You'd think like life was designed for that.
Right.
And it sounds like the invitation to take your whole life to a new level. So that's awesome.
Yes, it is. And so I had to look back at a folder, like back in the intensive stuff. I started saving some of those wake-up sheets, and I had done one on my stepfather, and then we did the power person, and definitely he was there, and that kind of work, and I didn't finish it. So it's like God reminded me that wasn't finished. And so this came up. If my relationship is going to be what it is, seems to be, and where it's going, then, hey, wait, there's still some more stuff to clean up. And I go, okay. And so I had to break through that and see it for what it was. And this is probably the 6th one out of others that I had to deal with. And I just went right through those, and then I got stuck with this one on the thoughts. And I knew what to do. I called for help. I just called into the radio show, and as God has it, you hear exactly what I needed to hear. And so
awesome.
We're on this journey, and it's just, it keeps going.
So
like the energy is funny.
It does, yes. So what I'm hearing is that you're in a new relationship, and that relationship's showing you some of your power person dynamics with your stepfather? Yes.
Well,
Perfect.
Because it had to do with, it was intimacy, and making out a little bit. and I wouldn't have thought that, except I knew to change that and stop. Hey, I can't go there. And that happened a few weeks ago, and I hadn't looked at, well, why did I pull back? Why did I say, hey, I can't do this right now? But then 2 days ago, God started working on stuff, and it didn't come down to my stepfather until last night, and I wasn't going to go to sleep on that, so I did it today.
Nice.
And then I got stuck right there in the thoughts, but then now I know what to do different. So I just need to go on down
work.
And then come back to that. Yeah. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it doesn't change, right? I can be off of it, and then you come back to it, and you just do 1 or 2, and it puts you right back into what you learned. And then you know to call for help, and you know where to call. Who to call Ghostbusters.
Call Ghostbusters. That's it. Get those old ghosts out of your genes.
That's right. I love it. So I'm holding a space for Susan, dear one, because I know it gets better. It gets better, and it is like what Dr. Tim was saying. You said it, Michael. The 3 Ps, right? It just takes practice, 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 and
that's it.
once we get it,
it's what it takes.
Yep. Anyway, so grateful and blessings to you guys. I appreciate you.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate your call. Thanks. Blessings.
Bye.
Nothing more rewarding than someone who picks up the tools and takes it to the next level. That's awesome. That's why we do what we do, and certainly warms the cockles of my heart. So, Ms. Jeanie, did you have another hand up?
We do, and it's area code 541. I think it might be Miss Belinda.
Are you with us, Celinda?
Yes, I just had to get off of the keyboard or the keypad and on to the regular part where I could unmute myself.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
How are you this fine day?
Just fabulous. We have our granddaughter today, and, it doesn't get much better than that.
Well, give her a hug.
We got sunshine. We got nice weather. Went out and did a little work on the garden this morning. We're blessed.
Always are, Michael. Are you there?
So what's on your mind for today?
Yes, the conversation with Susan, the continuing conversation that Susan is having with you and Dr. Tim is very, very helpful. Brought up a lot of things for me. One thing I realized was the issues of safety and perfectionism. They seem to be perennial. They rise again and again like yeasted bread. And I remember when I was listening to one of Bruce Lipton's interviews, and I don't know whether it was with you or someone else, but he happened to mention 3 healing modes that one could practice or use in order to help heal oneself. And the first one he called was repetition. And the second one was autosuggestion or self-hypnosis. And the third was the energy work, any energy healing work. And I realized that for me, being so stuck in my head, that what works best for me is repetition. And so I've been kind of going back to where I'm like a little tiny kid, and I just start repetition, just hearing it over and over again until my mind is willing to soften and go out and practice it.
Right.
And what I started with was because of the extreme polarity of COVID and getting caught in situations where I thought I was sharing, and I might have been, and someone else thought I was preaching, which I might have been. I decided to get out of the head a little bit. No, yeah, right. It's all the other one, right? And I thought I'd get out of my head, and the only way I could figure out how to get out of my head was to start calling people dear heart, like you do, sweetie, sweetheart, things like this. And, of course, being 79, I can get away with it, right, in this small community. And if someone gives me a funny look, like a guy or something, I say, I'm 79. I have a license to call you this if I like. It doesn't mean anything except that you're dear and you're important. And then they just soften up and, okay. And so
terms of endearment.
Magnificently. Pardon?
Terms of endearment.
Exactly. And why I did that was because I have seen how judgmental I am, not only of other but self, that I thought, I think I'll go in the kitchen door, I'll just keep telling people, basically, that they're precious until I start feeling that I'm precious. And it seems to be working, so I'm sharing that with you, especially those of us who are older. We might be able to get away with it, at least in the country. And that was one thing that I wanted to share. And then another thing I wanted to share, I'm so thankful for everyone who calls in. In fact, I was thinking about you, Anne, and I was hoping that you would call in eventually so I could welcome you and tell you how much your conversations have meant for me, and Magda's and Doug's and anybody else. And Michael, was it you that a lady called in, or Tim, I don't remember about? She hadn't called in for years and years and years, and she'd done a worksheet, and she was hung up on her perfectionism, and that was kind of the conclusion you all came to, was that she was hung up around perfectionism.
Right. Well, if it was me, then I probably gave her the assignment of being a retired perfectionist.
Yeah, no, might have been Tim, Dr. Tim.
Okay.
But anyway, that was extremely helpful, and all of the conversations that have gone around early childhood have been very, very helpful for me to remind myself. And then Dr. Tim doing the Way of Mastery, and it's like, go in your sandbox and play about this and say, hey, look at what I've created, Wouldn't I like to do something different? And so all
time,
of those, yeah, it's helping. Now, my question for you is, because I am so much in my head, and I'm pleased with that usually, because I'm very strong intellect, but putting it in its proper place, I was obsessing over my not being able to feel. Well, if you can't feel, you can't heal, right? And I was kind of obsessing and getting stuck over that. And then the other morning when I was in bed, in the mornings when I wake up, or in the night when I wake up, I notice things that I don't notice otherwise. I don't get up in the middle of the night to do things, Michael, because in the motorhome it's just too small and it wakes Larry up. Or
sure.
Because even if I turn any light on, it comes in over the top or the bottom of the bathroom door that closes between the two. And so I lie in bed. And I started noticing, I wanted to share this with others who might have a problem with healing too, because it's too scary. I noticed that my body tells me what I'm feeling. And
say that again a little louder. You've faded out just a little bit there.
Yeah, my body tells me what I'm feeling. Now, isn't this an amazing thing? I will notice that I'll have my hand on a certain part of my body, like in the spleen area, or in the thymus, on the thymus, or in my lung, or it'll just, my heart will go somewhere in my third chakra, the solar plexus. It'll just go somewhere. And I started thinking about that, and I thought, whoa. And having done the Tai Chi and Qigong, and Touch for Health especially has been helpful for me, I have become acquainted with the supposed emotional factors that go along with those particular meridians. Safety, sweetness, life sweetness, guilt, all of those. And so I start making relationships with that. And then I can go on and do my forgiveness work. Like a lot of times I'll do the Loving Exchange, Louise Hay version, where you put everybody in your heart, including yourself, at about 3 years old, that one. Gets pretty crowded in there, but it's very fascinating. You
it's a good thing.
Put us all in. Pardon?
It's a good thing.
Yeah. Or I'll do something else that will help, which will help get the blockages, get me past blockages in my forgiveness process, which I do somewhat.
Awesome.
I try to do in the worksheet. So I wanted to share that with you. and ask for support, which I know I always get with everybody who calls into the show, and you and Jeanie and Dr. Tim, and the support group that Dr. Tim has. And so it's all sweet. And I'm watching the process of turning it from a particular event sweetness to just more and more particular event sweetnesses and peace, joy, and love, because they're all interfaced. Peace and joy come out of love or something, but let's don't go running down a rabbit hole here. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And any thoughts?
All right, young lady.
Oh, yes, one more thing.
Well,
before I hang up.
Move on. Just put one foot in front of the other and do the next piece of work and the next piece of work, and soon you get to drop out of your head, and you get to drop into the underlying energy that is human life. And when we can live in that, get into the habit and the ability of living in that space rather than all the conversations that run in our heads, then human life starts to really unfold and happen at the next level. That's my high thought on what I hear you saying. So
yes,
go for
it. Three specific things. I am. 3 specific things with my body is that I have discerned is if I get into tears, it's usually about grief. If I get into obsessive thoughts, it's usually about safety or some justification thing. And if I get into my shaking arm, it's either rage or fear. And so those help me discern also. It's sort of like
good places for worksheets.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the place to do them, for sure.
That's where it goes. Okay.
Well, it's so common, and I appreciate the way you're linking them together in your own process. It's so common for people to want to separate what's going on from their minds, going on in their minds, from what's going on in their bodies. And truth is, of course, the mind and the body are just flip sides of precisely the same coin. You can't separate them. And so if I'm having difficulty touching into what's happening on the mental level, just being aware on a physiological level, and then the fact that you're noticing your hand automatically goes to the place where the energy's stuck can be just a powerful way to open the mind up. So nice work. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I really appreciate yesterday's breaking down of the emotional dis-ease process that develops into physical disease, because it hadn't quite coalesced for me, and that everything is connected to everything else. And any circle. One time I was talking to a friend, and I said, "Oh, it's a vicious circle. There's no in and no out to it." And my friend looked at me, who is an Ekankar, belongs to Ekankar, and she said,
right.
"But every point on a circle is an entrance and an exit." And it just kind of...
I think they taught us that one when we were kids, didn't they? I think it went something like the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone.
There you go. So if it doesn't work this way, do it that way. And I love the chakra system having the heart right in the middle, because it is the connector between the body and the mind for me. And I decided, okay, the only way I'm going to get out of my head being too much in there is to go into the heart and living more.
Have you got a pen and paper handy?
I don't know about the paper, but I have a new worksheet I'm processing, and so I'll put it on the corner of that.
Just a suggestion. You might find this piece of music opens an energy space for you. We had listened to it back some time ago, and I've been listening to it over and over in this little kid's voice. This is a child who's 10, who's blind and autistic, and he sings this song, and if you just put in AGT, he sings it on America's Got Talent, AGT, 10-year-old, autistic, open the eyes of my heart. It's so powerful. This little kid's voice.
He wasn't on AGT. Cody Lee was on AGT, but the little boy, I don't believe that was on AGT.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, if you put that in, it'll show up because I searched for it the other day that way. So he may not have been on AGT, but yeah.
Is it a YouTube video, or do you know?
Yeah. Just go to YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. That's it. Got it. So 10-year-old autistic, open the eyes of my heart?
Yep. It's powerful.
Okay.
Sweet. Just This kid's voice is just amazing.
And he's blind and deaf. Right?
Blind and autistic. He was born at 1 pound, I believe it was 6 ounces. He was born addicted to cocaine and alcohol, if I remember correctly. His mother was doing both cocaine and alcohol, and they said he would never survive. But he did. And he sang that song. The video you'll find is he's 10. The kid is now 20. Of course, he's still blind and autistic, and he's a speaker that goes all over the world, inspiring people. And you look up his life story and just watch what this kid's doing, and he's touching so many people. Just amazing. But just the vibration, the energy with which he sings that song is just monumental.
It comes out of the woodwork if we just have the eyes to see, huh?
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, blessings.
All right, well, any other thoughts for you today?
All the way around.
All right, blessings. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
And I am putting a link to that YouTube video in the notes for today, and his name is Christopher Duffley.
Yeah, pretty amazing. His life story is pretty amazing to read, and then to hear some of the stuff he's doing now as a young man of 20. Cool. So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody else in the phone queue with your hand up, or anything happening in the chat room? Any messages come through the app lately?
No hands up, nothing in the chat room, and no, I have not gotten any other emails. I'll click it open, make sure one hasn't come through since I checked last night. But,
cool.
And we've got 31 minutes, so we've got lots of time. Somebody press 1.
Yes, and I'm particularly searching for, we did 4 days, so 4 hours of Aramaicisms, which to me is just a monumentally huge topic. Like we could spend, well, actually I've spent the last 43 or 44 years on it. And so I'm especially looking for questions that might have been inspired with that 4 days where you played that workshop, Aramaicisms. Anything that, we covered in that 4 days, of course we didn't answer questions because it was pre-recorded. But anything that moved for anyone, I invited everyone before we started that series to have a notepad and ask questions. It'd be cool to hear anyone's thoughts, what it stirred for you, what questions, what impact, perhaps some of the particular definitions and words that we talk about in the workshop have. And of course, Aramaicisms, once again, being a term that I coined to reflect our effort to bring back the original first century meaning of the words that were used in the teachings of this man named Yeshua. And what boggles my mind, so often, especially people who have a science-oriented mind, talk about how, well, those old fogies in the desert, they didn't know anything. There is so much that came forward in the Aramaic that is absolutely mind-boggling. And the lack of some of the knowledge that is there is what allows people to continue to do some of the crazy stuff that people do out of hostility and fear. Crazy being even saying that they're doing their hostility and fear out of love. And there are just so many pieces of the puzzle that are there that create a foundation that without that foundation, you know, it's like the tires on a car. If what you had on your car were steel rims, you could say, well, I have wheels and they're round, so I should be able to drive wherever I want. Well, you kind of would be able to get down the road, but you're going to have a whole lot of difficulties without tires on the car. My offering, my take is that without the brain cells of the first century Aramaic language, most people are running their minds with no tires, running their mouths with no tires, running their lives, their relationships with no tires on the car. It's that knowledge, understanding, especially about the mind, has become that degraded from 2,000 years ago. And it was anything but old fogies. For someone who's got a mind that's open and is willing to start to just don't believe any of it, just take it and apply it, and watch how monumentally things change.
And Susan pressed 1 again, so her hand's back up.
Oh, cool. Well, let's say hello to the young lady.
Hi.
Hey.
Michael, hey, part of the Aramaicisms, one of the questions I had in there is, at some point, Dale Allen Hoffman mentioned that we had gotten the idea of original sin screwed up because there was a word that was mistranslated, but I can't remember what that was. Can you start that up again? Tell me what that was. He said it was
I'm not
original
sure.
Blessing. He said the word should have been original blessing. Something like that. I haven't gone back through, but
right.
Anyway, I think
I'm not
of
recalling
the fact,
it offhand.
Well, I'll come at it from my question from another angle. Sometimes it occurs to me that the reason we may have fear is because we are experiencing ourselves as separate from one another. And
Yes.
as soon as we're separate, we have these vehicles, our bodies, that have to be maintained and protected. And we automatically have fear in there. And yet fear is a seriousness. Dr. Tim's talking, was reading about how one of the biggest mistakes we can make is to take ourselves seriously and to take our situation seriously. We are here to play. And in playing, and also to learn to love and withdraw all projections and judgments and perceptions so that we come back to ourselves and say, I don't know anything, show me what to do. This is combining a whole lot of stuff you've been teaching and he's
right.
Been reading. But I was thinking the basic, I was just wondering whether it was a translation thing that led us, the whole church, to establish our basic wickedness, badness, and the fact that we need to be redeemed by God's own Son. We're that bad that it's going to take a crucifixion. God didn't even like sacrifices, but since that was our language, he agreed to somehow make the big sacrifice because that's what we understood. I can't imagine God liked any of it, but I just wanted to go back and find a word that might have been the thing that steered us in such a wrong direction. It doesn't matter that you don't remember it, because I think Dale Allen just basically said that was a mistake. There's no original sin. There's original I think he used the word blessedness.
Right.
So anyway,
right. One of the things, you listen to that story about the language being confounded.
Yeah.
And that's such a key because, as we started out with that first call, the language that we use determines what evidence our mind is allowed to use in building our reality.
Yeah.
And when we buy into language that's inaccurate, even though it sounds like a great idea, like, for instance, loving each other, sounds like a great idea, but it's going to lead us off on a rabbit trail that takes us right off down a road that is in error. Because I don't want you to love me. I don't ever want to love you. And I know that I have never been loved and I've never loved anybody. That whole rabbit trail is falsity. But I do want to learn to remember who I am, i.e. my original blessing, my original state of being as created love, and make sure that my mind knows to do behaviors that support me experiencing myself as that love, so that I'm always functioning out of that state of being, out of a true achievable goal, rather than the way the words were turned around. I was saying yesterday, so many key words were turned exactly backward. And so, the mind is almost addicted to, I need to love you. I need you to love me. When it's just a fallacy. It's like, it's like saying, gee, I'm going to do a new opera on my piano. Get me the guitar. Well, I'm never going to be able to play an opera on my piano if I think that the guitar strings are piano keys. It's that kind of basic error to say, I'm going to learn to love you, or I want you to love me. It's like just it's like I want to play in a particular field, and somebody shows me a pit, at the bottom of the mountain, and I try to get to the field from the pit, and it's just not doable. It's that gross an error, and when we give up this state of being, this state that we were created in for some falsity in the mind, we've given up the original blessing for original error. And once someone engages that error, it tends to be passed on from generation to generation. Once someone wakes up and starts to function out of original blessing, then we can each become the support for each other, remembering that, and remembering in the sense of becoming a member once again of the human race.
So that's good.
Human beings.
I was going to ask.
Absolutely, right on.
Go ahead.
That is it.
I was going to ask you, and you've done this before, but when you say hold Rachma active and present, Rachma is, to me, it's a chunk. It's a word I haven't metabolized and translated into my soul. It's
not an easy one.
It's not easy. So could you fool around with giving it some adjectives or synonyms? Or
How about a metaphor?
All right.
It's fun. We're working with Arya on metaphors and getting her to understand those. So we'll come up with one. What is this, Arya? Oh, that's double entendre. Anyway, so how about a metaphor?
Sure.
So I have a camera, and when I click the shutter, like the only way I can get a picture on the photographic plate is by opening the shutter of the camera to allow light in.
Okay.
That's Rockman. It's the shutter in the mind. It's an opening that when we open it, and so I'm asking Ruka for support in keeping Rockma open, keeping the shutter open. This thing called Rockma, which then allows active present love into physiology. So it's the gateway. It's a dual function. One, it's the gateway. You know, the aperture open is the gateway into which light enters and hits the photographic plate. Rockma is the gateway into which love enters the human form and floods into and empowers or fuels the whole human form. So that would be Rockma is simply it's the gateway. You know, when Yeshua says you must have Rockma, not love your neighbor as yourself, but you must have Rockma when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, and by doing so you maintain self. So I'm with a neighbor, and up comes my hostility. I'm certainly not functioning as love. I certainly don't know myself as love. In fact, maybe at this moment I'm just so filled with rage I can't even imagine what love is. So many people live in that world. If I've entered the practice of asking Ruka for support in opening this aperture, all of a sudden there's an opening and I get a flash of light. A flash of love comes in to bring solace and healing to everything in me that's moving that isn't love. Whatever's in there, based in whatever form of hostility or fear, if I can even for an instant open that shutter, open that gateway, then the active presence of love, the light floods into my physiology, into my mind, and into my emotions, and whatever's moving in me at that moment that's based in a lie heals in that instant, that fast.
I have felt that. I have felt that in the most challenging situations, and it's like a flash.
That's it.
That's great.
Thank you for the question, because I've never thought of it that way, and that's the best way I could even imagine explaining it, just realizing that this is the shutter, and the practice is to keep it open more and more and more. And so, again, we hear Yeshua saying, you open the shutter, you bring in, you maintain the presence of love in your physiology, in your mind, in your emotions, and so by doing this, in the presence of this person that brought up your rage, you get to maintain your human life. You live in original blessing. Rather than, the rage that this person resonated in you that maybe goes back 100 generations, and people would call that the original sin. If in the presence of someone resonating my quote-unquote original sin, something that went on, who knows, 100 generations ago, the gift of someone giving that is if in that instant I can remember to open that shutter, then that flash of light heals whatever's moving in me. And then there's a second function for it when that aperture is open, when that gateway is open, and that is that there are basically three filters in the human mind over the part of the mind that holds intentions and the part of the mind that holds perception, or that formulates perception. Rockma, the second function of it, is that it is a gateway that allows or filters what's happening in the mind so that hostility or fear, negative or destructive energies are inhibited, and the only energies that can move to formulate my intentions are those based in love. So at the same time, it's kind of like bringing my mind into alignment with this state of being that's now shining through this aperture. And when that happens, all of the intentions I can be aware of are linked and keyed only to love. Like this This is one of the ideas that I was talking about a few minutes ago about how what's missing in the world, that the world doesn't, there's no such concept as this. And yet when it's there and, you know, this person's resonating my fear, my sadness, my grief, or my rage, if I can keep that open, then that fear, sadness, grief, and rage is inhibited by the activity of Rahma. And now my intentions, the energetic patterns of my intentions have to be based in love. And seeing as how my intentions are the raw material of my goals, then my goals are going to be based in love, and that means that a second filter moves, or a second aperture opens, and that's Kuba. It's the matching aperture over perception is Kuba. And when you put those two together, you go back into the ancient Aramaic, and when they said perfect love casts out fear, what they were saying is if Rahma and Kuba, if those two apertures are open, whatever fear, whatever demon of fear is moving in you, it's going to dissolve. It's going to melt. It's going to be forgiven.
Whoa.
And like that's like the core of how the mind works, yet show me anybody in the world. Show me anywhere in the world that shows up besides through Yeshua's mouth. I don't know if anywhere it exists. I've been doing a lot of looking for a lot of years. For better than a half a century.
Yeah. In the Way of Mastery, it says, with every breath you establish this again and again and again. Keep doing it.
Well, and to me that enlightens another piece of what Yeshua was talking about, and that is that if that aperture is open, and I think from now on that's what I'm going to refer to Rahma and Kuba as, is apertures. If it's open, then it is that opening that allows the dissolution of every sin, of every energy that's unlike love.
Why is it that it comes back so fast? I can have that
well,
flash
remember,
and then, go ahead.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, we've got a past, you know, and it's all resonance. Remember how often we've talked about. Remember, especially through the whole codependence to interdependence intensive, how many times I said, become the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions. Become the observer. Because when I can see how I can get sucked into a high amplitude hate, fear, rage, guilt, grief, drama, and trauma vibration. I can get lost in that. And when I can step back from that, rather than it, you know, fully grabbing me by the face with a fist of, you know, an MMA fighter's fingers tightening around my face and sucking me in, as I can step back and observe it, I can keep remembering that even though I'm tempted to fall into this fear or this rage or this guilt, whatever, I can remember, I'm going to keep, the practice is to keep Rahma open. The practice is to keep that aperture open. You know, wake up in the morning, before you jump out of bed, I know you got a long list and the mind will get you running and have to do everything, but just stop and take a few minutes and just breathe and establish Rahma, establish your connection with active love before you say or do a word. So that becomes first nature. And it's that dissolves everything that moves in what people might call the sin body, the body that holds energies that are off the mark. Remembering, especially if there's anybody in the audience who hasn't been part of this conversation for long, that the word sin in Aramaic is simply an archery term. If you were on the archery ranges and fired at the bullseye and you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell sin. If you missed the target altogether, the scorekeeper would yell evil. That's all those words mean. They're not some big, terrible, you know, nasty, gonna get you kind of thing. The only one that can get you is your own. So, does evil exist in the world? Are there people who are off the target altogether? Does sin exist in the world? Are there those who miss the bullseye? Absolutely. Do I have to get sucked into it? Not if I stay connected to love. And then, whatever's resonated in me, if I keep that aperture open, it's like I've got the light of dissolution on all what the world calls evil and sin. And I don't have to be concerned about somebody else's evil or sin. All I have to do is be concerned about cleaning up my own. And when I've got that presence of love, I become impervious to the external world.
I feel as if I just got a booster shot.
Yay. And the breath is the key to keeping now the veil open. Remember they talked about the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. They weren't talking about a purple curtain in the church. The veil of the temple is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious. Keep that aperture open, breathe, and the veil stays open. And now, high speed, fast forward, everything that's locked into the structure that is of that energy that's off the mark dissolves rapid fire. Now you're in high speed processing. We call that still point. I can remember Jeanie and I were in Miami, Florida, speaking at a church there. And the topic I was talking on was baptism. And if you remember, Yeshua went and did baptism, and he did baptism because it was a tradition in the Jewish, culture. Okay, I'll go do that. But you'll notice you can read through every word of it, and you never hear about him pouring water on anybody's head. I mean, there are people who supposedly are following him, and that's all they talk about is, there's even a whole thing called the Baptist Church, and he never baptized anybody by pouring water over their heads, not one person. But what did he do? What did they say? He would baptize with the Spirit. And that word Spirit there, again, another mistranslation, another word change. If you go back to the original story in creation, it doesn't say anything about God sending out some sort of disembodied spirit being. It says the Creator sent out its breath. And when we cut ourselves off from the breath, we close down the veil of the temple, which locks in those generational patterns of hostility and fear, of quote-unquote sin. And so if I'm in the practice of keeping that aperture open, keeping that light coming in, and the pineal gland is the only set of cells in the body that receives and responds to light. And it's interesting, there are so many things, so many drugs, so many chemicals and such in the culture that calcify and shut down the pineal gland so no light gets in.
Mm.
I believe that's probably the point of Rockma. That's the aperture where the light comes in. And then if I'm breathing when that happens and there's some form of hostility or fear in me that starts to move, the combination of those two things, and I'm freed from my past. I'm baptized. So I'm doing this presentation, and I literally had this visual kind of like intuitively come in. And what I saw was everybody in the congregation, like this is what we should be doing, is everybody in the congregation getting with a partner, laying their partner down, and breathing them. And that whole room of people together being breathed, allowing that full flow of the breath, and people are being baptized. That would be a real baptism a la Yeshua, nothing to do with water. It's got to do with energetic healing.
Jesus himself was baptized in water by John the Baptist.
Right.
But
he did the traditional Jewish thing.
Tradition. What
exactly. He fulfilled that tradition. I think it was just part of, this is what you got to do if you're going to be a rabbi in the year 0 in the Middle East.
Right. So we've
But then he goes on. And then he goes on and he does something different. He shows people how to breathe. And people who are touched by the breath, in whom the Holy Spirit enters, that is the whole breath, process out whatever doesn't belong. Quote unquote, their sins are forgiven. Whatever is accessed in the presence of the light, energies that are based in hostility and fear, are literally, physiologically, emotionally, and mentally transmuted by the presence of love. Aperture open, veil opens, massive high-speed fast-forward healing of generations and generations and generations of trauma. Does that fit with where you wanted to go?
Yeah, that's, oh boy, this show piggybacked really well with Dr. Tim's show.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, what is it, even if I'm focusing on Rakma, what is it that I have difficulty keeping my breath moving in the presence of? What moves in my mind that all of a sudden has me restricting my chest, restricting my throat, restricting my jaw, clenching my jaw, shutting down my cranial structure, shutting down the energy so I don't have to feel and deal with what's in there? And
Absolutely.
in those moments,
Yeah.
if I'm able to be the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from the actions, I can literally, it's kind of like I can bring my spine forward, I can open my chest, I can just open my field and breathe into that, embrace that which is moving at the deepest, most powerfully traumatic levels of my generational history, and I can embrace that in the presence of that light, in the presence of that love, and dissolve that. And that's what forgiveness is a dissolution of that.
I wish it were a once and for all thing.
We've got the magic pill.
Yeah.
There is a magic pill, by the way. There is a magic pill.
Okay.
It was called the Pearl of Great Price. I didn't say I was going to share it. I was just saying there is one.
Oh,
No, just kidding. Just kidding. Willingness.
Mm-hmm. Still.
What is it
Okay.
that when something happens that I tighten in the presence of?
Mm-hmm.
And am I willing? Because when I soften and open, that stuff's going to start to move. And, a lot of people have literally spent their whole lives and made virtually every decision about everything, from what they eat to what they drink to who they talk to how they talk. They make every decision based in, I got to keep this shut down. I've got to keep this from moving. I don't want to face, I don't want to deal, I don't want to feel with this. And so they lock in, and their gut is locked up like as tight as a drum, and the rest of their structure is like boards. When it's meant to be subtle, gentle, pulsating, moving energy through every cell, through every muscle, through every bit of sinew in the structure. So the willingness to allow, and you could almost think about the level at which the veil is open. If it's open in the top inch of your head, well, that's pretty cool. But then the other, 5 foot whatever is closed down. So can I move it down? Can I bring it down to where that soft, subtle, love-filled, light-filled energy is moving in that part of my tissue structure, down into where it moves through my jaw, through my throat, through my lungs, through my belly, through the the genital area, through the legs, through the hips, through the thighs, through the knees. Can I open the veil so that whatever's stored there, I'm willing to embrace in the presence of love.
God, that's a key thing.
Yes, it is. Rather than sending that energy out into the world as an invitation for somebody to come and do it to me so that I get to look at that. Willingness is a magic pill. So joining you, young lady, and our time is up. The Blog Talk just shouted in my ear, we're finished. So thank you again for your questions. Hope you've got more for us on Monday. In the meantime, everybody have an awesome weekend and the best year yet of your eternal